If you're looking to buy new curling equipment, don't settle for cheap imitations. Hardline came onto the scene 7 years ago and is now at the forefront of high performance and recreational curling equipment. Hardline's ice pad is the best choice when it comes to brush heads, which is why top-ranked pros play with it, including world champions Team Gushu, as well as U.S. men's and women's national champions Team Schuster and Team Sinclair. Whether you're looking for brooms, the Pro Slide delivery aid designed by Reed Carruthers, or shoes and apparel, take a look at Hardline and see why they are the number one choice for curling equipment. Show this sponsor your support by going to www.TESN.US and clicking on Hardline's ice pad logo.
Curling Fans is America's best curling teams prepared to compete on the world stage. You've come to the one place with everything you need involving USA curling. It's the Extra In podcast with Price Atkinson. Get ready for everything that you need to know. News, interviews, points of view, anything involving Team USA forming and the 2018 Winter Olympics in South Korea for Team USA curling is found here. It's the Extra In podcast with Price Atkinson and the 12th In Sports Network crew, powered by Isagenix.
All right, welcome into the Extra In podcast with the 12th In Sports Network, powered by Isagenix, Price Atkinson, and Joe Calabrese. We've got a big lineup here, Joe. It's been a good weekend, a lot of great curling, but what another great podcast we have here set up on the Extra In podcast to start this week again.
You bet, Price. I mean, we've got interview, as we do each and every week. We have an interview with one of those trials teams that's going to be at the trials in November. This week's going to be Craig Brown and Jason Smith from Team Brown. And then we've got a really special guest, Price. Tell them who it is.
Yeah, we've got 2010 Olympic gold medalist from Team Canada, John Morris, multi-winner of the Brier there, junior national champion, and just an absolutely special conversation that we had with him, really just kind of looking at where he is, where the game of curling is, not just here in North America, but globally, kind of getting a little bit of his insight, into some of these U.S. men's team with the upcoming Olympic trials in Omaha, just literally weeks around the corner in Omaha. Really great stuff from John Morris, Joe. Very special.
Yeah, he touches on a whole lot of different topics, one of which is just sort of the direction of the U.S. program in general. And it's nice to get an outsider's perspective on that, as we have been talking about that, it seems like, for the last month and a half, ever since the start of this podcast.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And as we had, a good weekend of curling, Joe, as we saw, Team Schuster, they make a run, qualify for the playoffs. I don't know if we want to get into podcast bump. I don't want to say it came to an end, but, Jamie and Corey, they do make the finals out there in Seattle, right?
Yeah, a mixed doubles event out in Seattle, and it was on TESN.US. And Jamie and Corey, they wound up in the final. They get beat on a relatively close game, if I remember correctly. And just another great another piece of evidence of how important that podcast bump really is. We only had half the team on, so they only made, the final. They didn't win at all. So, but each week it seems like a different team that we have on does something. I didn't get back with Christopher Lenz to find out if he won his league games, but I'm sure he must have. We'll have to find out from him next week.
Well, I'll just let you and our listeners know that it's not just Richie Ruinen now asking for the podcast bump and trying to, finagle their way to the final episode before the Olympic trials. It is now, I've even had wives of curlers now trying to hit me up saying, you got a space before that last, that last podcast before the trials, right, Price? Right? I said, hold on, pump the brakes here. But you can see everybody's getting on board, Joe. They know what's happening here on the Extra podcast.
No, it certainly can't hurt to get that last spot. And, once I look at it, our schedule now, that trials preview show, we have no guests lined up. I'm sure we can work something out.
Don't tempt them.
No kidding. I quickly changing gears before we get on to that interview. I wanted to mention the Corbett Rink wins in Kalamazoo. Corbett is a Rochester curling club former Rochester Curling Club member, so I want to always mention when Rochester Curling Club does well. So their team won out in Kalamazoo, one of those sort of Tier 2 U.S. events we had talked about a few episodes back. It's good to see them get out on the road and do well, as I know that they are preparing for a nationals run this year.
Yeah, congratulations to the Corbett Rink. But before we go any further, we got a great giveaway here we're going to tell you about in a little bit, but just a little teaser here, Joe. Another nice prize you can win here on the Extra Extra In podcast simply by listening to us and going to TESN.US/podcast. Tell them about it.
Yeah, probably one of the most important pieces of equipment you can have is what you deliver with. And this week we have the stabilizer FS1 as our prize. So if you go to www.TESN.US/podcast and go to that win widget, you can enter to win a stabilizer that you can use as the curling season is about to begin here in Rochester and has begun all across the country.
Yeah, and you can also go to TESN.US/podcast, listen to every single episode, as we've got episode 7 right here live for you. A new episode every single Thursday morning when you wake up. It's that easy. Subscribe to the Extra Extra In podcast simply by going to iTunes or the Apple Podcast app on your smartphone. Go to the Apple Podcast app, search the Extra Extra In podcast. It is that easy. Hit subscribe. That way you will get a new episode, a notification every single Thursday morning as we lead you up to these all-important Olympic trials coming up November the 11th through the 18th. And Joe, also you can connect with us on Twitter, on Facebook and social media. Another great way for our listeners to figure out what prizes we've got going each week and how they can enter to win.
Yeah, you can hit us up on Twitter at 12N Sports. That's a great way to reach out to us, talk a little bit about what's happened on the podcast. We had some people reach out to us there. They can reach out to us on our website also, kind of let us know what they like or don't like. But, you got to also rate us out on iTunes. That makes a big difference. As the Olympic trials are coming up, we want to have more and more people hear about this podcast, and the best way to do it is by rating and giving us a good review on iTunes. That would help out a lot.
Absolutely. As everybody, curling fans, we're going to bring new people to the table here as the Olympic Games get going in South Korea coming up in February. Go ahead and say you are in on the ground level, and that's one of those many, many ways by say you are a subscriber and listening here to the Extra Extra In podcast as we move forward. All right, we've got an interview coming up here in the next segment, Joe. Team Brown, Craig Brown and Jason Smith. We'll talk with Craig and Smitty here in the next segment. And don't forget, coming up in our roundtable, Joe and I are going to talk with 2010 Olympic gold medalist from Canada, John Morris. 2 interviews you will not want to miss coming up next here on the Extra Extra In podcast with the 12th In Sports Network, powered by Isagenix. Have you tried different weight loss programs and are still looking for results? I was too until I found Isagenix, and it didn't take long before I started getting the results that I wanted. Isagenix is a complete 9-day or 30-day weight loss, energy, performance, and health aging program. With over 550,000 customers in 7 countries, Isagenix's science-backed ingredients and products are rigorously tested for safety and will help boost your weight loss efforts by gently cleansing and nourishing your body. Isagenix's cleansing and fat-burning system has helped me relieve daily stress and given me even more energy to play with my kids from sun up to sundown. Every day and every week, I'm coming across and meeting a friend of mine that is also an Isagenix customer. My personal Isagenix associate, Sarah Schuster, helped me take control of my health and, most importantly, my life. Sarah walked me through the entire process, answered every question, and most importantly, serves as my personal daily cheerleader. And she can do the same and more for you. Give Sarah a call with the keyword curling at 218-391-1566, and she'll waive your 1-year membership fee. Stop making excuses and start taking control. Let Sarah get you started on a healthier life at 218-391-1566. Isagenix did it for me, and it can do it for you. Welcome back into the Extra Extra In podcast. Price Atkinson here, and joined for our guest interview this week by members of The Craig Brown rink. Craig Brown himself, and then the man who once I heard call himself the best athlete in the HP performance program. He declared it demonstratively. Jason Smith. What's going on, guys?
Wow, that's a bold start to the interview here.
I heard it Eyeside out in Everett. He sat there and was bragging that he was the best athlete because he could dunk a basketball. Craig, is it true?
I think because I could catch a ball. I think that's why I said it.
I've never seen him dunk. I've never seen him.
Not quite.
I've never seen him catch anything for that matter either. I don't think.
We don't really throw rocks though, so thankfully there's no catching involved.
So it's really a bunch of bull, is what you're telling me, right?
No, I'm not going to disagree with that statement, but I'm going to.
You're just not.
It's not as bold as you're making it out to be.
Okay, all right.
He's an athlete. I'm not sure I'm going to put the tag best on him, but he's an athlete.
All right. Well, what's the summer been like for you guys in the fall, getting ready for what's obviously coming up, a big event here in Omaha at the trials and starting November the 11th. It's shorter summer. It's not like a normal year. It's obviously an Olympic year, so you get started a little bit earlier in the summer. What's it been like for you guys, Greg?
Well, we kind of started the season right after the season ended last year.
Mm-hmm.
We kind of decided to call it a day on 2016, 2017. And I think it was early April, mid-April, we started going up to Blaine to the training center, and we had about 3 practice weekends with just our team, try and work out some details and some kinks that we thought we had from last season, and so we kind of got a early start, then took our break. In June and July we didn't do much of anything, but we had another couple camps since then, and now we're ready to kick this season off.
There's got to be a lot more excitement. I mean, it's just a little bit different, clearly, with so much on the line, trying to compete, make the Olympic team. Something you guys have had a taste of. The 2 guys on your team, along with Croy and certainly Sean, and then Quinn, and you guys have had a taste of this, so you know what this process, this journey entails. You guys have been down this road before.
Yeah. One thing about it, since I won the Olympic trials, is it's faster now. Generally, we prepare a whole season to peak in February through April for our national championships, and then hopefully the world championships. So this year comes a little quicker for us, where we're trying to peak a little earlier in November, play our best at that so we can win that, and then of course play our absolute best in the Olympic Games. So it's a little bit sooner, which is why we got the kickstart on the season a little earlier, just to avoid some of the rust that does come with the off season. So the more we could get in there during that time, the less rust we would have, and be able to start our season off right and get up to that point where we want to be earlier.
Did starting, you're obviously going to begin earlier as it is, just because it's an Olympic year with trials in November, but did any of that have to do with how you guys felt you played last season, wanting to erase, whether it was a bad taste, good taste, to turn the page quickly and begin on this year's season?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, I'm not going to say we had this real bad taste in our mouth in general, but it wasn't. None of us were overly happy with how the season went. We had a lot of games we left on the table, I think, and so we thought, let's just get an early start, reset, and start focusing on this season. And like you said, we got such an early start with the playdowns, or the Olympic trials, the second week in November. There's no time to ease into the season this year, so we were, like Smitty said, we're trying to shake any rust off, or just prevent any rust from getting there in the first place.
Yeah, absolutely. As we talked with Craig Brown and Jason Smith here from Craig Brown's rink, getting ready for the Olympic trials here, November the 11th gets started. And Craig, so I want to start with you a little bit here. You went to the 2014 games as an alternate, as a fifth man with Schuster's team, and what did you take away, from that experience that helped you prepare for this upcoming trials and hopefully a spot in South Korea with your team?
Well, that's a good question. I got an idea of what the magnitude of the Olympics is, as a little bit more as a player. I still don't necessarily feel like I was I don't know, full-fledged Olympian, as Smitty might say, because he won his spot. I'm not saying I didn't deserve to be there with those guys, and I think I helped him on the way, especially at the qualifier event. But at the same time, there's something still out there for me to feel like I'm earning it. But I got a good idea of what to expect once I get there. I've been to enough national championships. I've been to enough U.S. Olympic trials. I understand. I already understood that event and what comes with it. But this time, should we make it to the next level, that's not going to come as much of a surprise.
Yeah, and you got to play. I mean, in fairness, you got the taste of playing in a game. You didn't just sit on the bench. I mean, you got some action in there. I think that validates you deserve to be there, Craig.
Yeah, it was a good time. It was fun. It was a great experience the whole time, even though the results weren't what we were hoping for. The entire process leading up to it and during was a great experience and something that I'll remember forever. And I'll take away things that should help us going forward.
And I read a story about, certainly your sister Erica was there with you, but something that your dad had asked you guys to walk hand in hand, look at each other, and say, "We did it." I think it was at the opening ceremonies, or if it was the closing. I think it was the opening, but that had to have been really special for you and your sister to walk into an opening ceremony together.
Yeah, that was. I think that's a pretty surreal moment in any athlete's life who's lucky enough to do it. Just I still don't really have the right words to explain that feeling when you walk out of the tunnel. But I think it was added. It was even better for myself walking next to my sister and kind of sharing that moment with her.
Yeah. As we continue on the 12th End podcast here, the Extra End, Craig Brown and Jason Smith. And Smitty, you had the taste of the Olympics in 2010, right? And playing with Ike and Benton and Schuster. And how did competing on that stage, the biggest stage in your sport, how did that maybe change your approach and drive to the game, after clearly qualifying and then being there? Did it change it as you started getting ready for the next cycle?
I think it became... Back in 2009, I don't think obviously we wanted to win and we thought we could win, but I don't think the goal throughout the whole season was we have to be the Olympic team. We have to be the Olympic team. It was mainly just so we could get better and better throughout the season, and then hopefully put ourselves in position to win. And thankfully, we did win. The big thing is just like Craig was saying, the magnitude of the event. Technically it is like a world championships with actually less teams.
Yeah.
But with every other sport having their world championship at the same time, and the media coverage that curling gets at that point just makes it a whole different level. So the positive, like Craig was, we talked about Craig being able to go, so it's good that our skip, got an understanding of that and what it means. He's not going to be thrown in, kind of without knowing any information about it. So that'll be big. But it's just, I came back because I wanted to win a medal at the Olympics.
Yeah.
It was left a bad taste in our mouth after 2010 with performing poorly when we had so many chances to, win games and have a better record than we did.
Yeah.
So it was definitely a goal. I left the game for a while, but then, missed playing, and then it became the goal of, beating that, and that's not. I don't want 2-7 to be my curling legacy.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, you took a little bit of time away, and before you came back, got the bug again, being around so many fellow competitors, in the Minneapolis-St. Paul area. But in 2010, there was, I don't want to call it drama, but the situation that happened within the team. You ended up throwing, I believe, was it 4 stones there? What did you learn about your game at the time, and what? That situation and where you needed to be going forward?
It's two different sides, right?
Sure.
So like Schuster and Ike and I have been friends forever, and obviously we knew Benton, our entire curling lives. But Schuster and Ike, we were all really close. So we had two sides of it. We had the curling side and also our friendship side.
Yeah.
I remember, finding out that I was throwing last, and it so kind of hit both sides. Like I wanted to win, And, also I felt, hurt for, my teammate.
Yeah.
We didn't want to, anything bad like that to happen. And it was a mess. We got out of it, fairly okay. And, but it didn't make John look any better when we won our next 2 games.
Yeah.
With me throwing last. But he would have won those 2 games probably more convincingly than, the team did when I was throwing last. But yeah, I mean, it's about winning. That's the big thing, is it's about medals there.
Yeah.
You're not there to gain experience, and you're at the Olympics. You can't say you're there to gain experience for the next one, because they only come every 4 years. You only have so many you can choose from in your life. While a world championship, you can say, okay, well, it's my first world championship. I'll have many more of these. They happen every year. You don't really have that opportunity at the Olympics. You're expected to perform well, win medals, and win games.
All right, Craig, obviously you got Quinn as your 5th, but your other teammates who you guys are preparing, getting ready for, but Croy and Sean Baton. Sean seems like he's kind of a steady Eddie, kind of, a calm guy. Croy he's one of I love watching him on the broom. I mean, there's a few other guys I love watching boss the broom than Croy. Just talk about what those 2 guys bring to the team, as well as Quinn.
I think that Croy maybe fits the steady Eddie label that you gave to Sean a little better. He's, Mr. kind of calm and quiet, and maybe sometimes to a fault. One of the things that we're working on and have been working on as a team. But, he doesn't say a whole lot. When he does, it's usually a pretty good idea to pay attention. But and Sean, he's out there and he's just trying to do his job the best he can every day. And trying to keep it a little light for us at times. I think Smitty probably fills that role, the keep it light job, a little better than Sean. But there's 5 of us out there, every week, and if one of us is off, it affects all of us, and so we're trying to really focus on making sure that we're all doing the right thing on the ice and off the ice.
Yeah, absolutely. And Smitty, Craig's got the reputation of being a quietly intense, very intense skip. Fair assessment?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, there's most of the time Craig is pretty he's fair and level-headed, but there's a couple occasions when he'll get upset and he'll show it, and it the fire comes out, which I think it helps our team when it's in a positive way. Obviously, we don't want any negative vibes out there from anybody.
Yeah.
But it'll help our team. It gives us a kick in the butt a little bit. Hey, we gotta make something happen this end.
Now, I haven't been around Craig a whole lot, but I can probably count on one hand how many times I've seen him, flash a big smile. What do you do? Because he mentioned you're the lighthearted guy. How do you get this guy to smile? I know you got some jokes. I know you got some of the crazy things that happen to you. Come on, what do you do to get him just to chuckle just a little bit, have a little fun?
Just one-liners and quirks. He'll come down to one end, and it's really anything. It kind of depends on the situation. And most of the time, it's something that'll happen off the ice that we'll be joking around about that we can bring out onto the ice and just kind of, keep us loose and keep us having fun out there. I mean, it still is a game, and we have to be having fun, first of all.
Yeah.
We know we have a job to do, and our job is to win, but we have to enjoy what we're doing, too.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm going to say in my defense.
Please, Craig.
I look a lot more angry and upset on the ice than I actually am. I understand that I've seen the games on TESN and whatnot, so I can tell that I look like I'm more upset and angry and whatnot than I actually am. And off the ice, I like to think that I smile a little bit more often than on. But
so maybe we should institute some emojis or something during a Craig Brown game during the Olympics when we have it on TESN this year. Maybe
just flash it right over my face, a big smiley.
Yeah.
Or something. I don't know about that, but I'll try and give you an extra smile or two.
No. Well, Craig, I know your family. You got munchkins. Have they gotten involved in curling? I know certainly you're first family of curling, but have your kids have they started hitting the ice a little bit? I know it's one of those things where you just kind of probably let them pick it up as they want to, but being around the ice, have they got any interest? Or?
My youngest, Henry, he's too young. He doesn't have any interest yet. He's just trying to figure out, what thing he can climb on at the club or the arena or whatever. My oldest, Martin, he kind of surprised me last year because he was home. I don't know if he was homesick or had an in-service day or something from school. So I'm watching him, and I had to go down and throw some practice stones. And I thought he was just going to kind of run around the club, and I brought a couple toys for him to play with. And 2 minutes later, he walks onto the sheet next to me without even asking, and he just puts both feet in the hack and starts running out to the hog line. And about 5 feet before the hog line, just slides on his knees and gives the rock a shove down the sheet. And I thought, okay, well, we'll just let him go with this. I'm not going to give him any feedback. And the first one, I can't remember if it went way short or way long. And the second one, he hit full 8 foot. Mm-hmm. So I was like, all right, maybe this guy's going to be better than me in no time. So he's tried it a couple times, but he's still too small to actually curl. So I'm sure he'll take an interest at some point, but I'm going to let that happen as it happens.
Something tells me he had fine brown form when he let that one stone go and pushed it down.
It was all right.
All right, wrap it up here with Craig Brown and Jason Smith. And Smitty, you played mixed doubles with Monica Walker, and I know you got the Olympic trials in December. I think maybe a little bit more work to do there.
We're not in yet. Yeah.
But you seem to have a game that's really well suited for mixed doubles.
Yeah, so growing up, played a lot of one-on-one, so not throwing at a broom was nothing new. So that definitely plays in my favor, and then just, cold draws. Monica's a great sweeper, too. I'm not saying that. She can definitely carry rocks. But, it's a game that I enjoy playing. It's different. It's fun. It's, and playing with Monica is great. We get along very well, so it works out really well for us.
All right, last question. This was one from Joe. He wanted me to ask Craig, a special one from Joe Calabrese. He said, if you put together a team of 4 skips for the trials, current U.S. skips, who would your 4-man team be, and who would the skip be?
Well, I don't think you could put 4 U.S. skips on the same team. I don't think that would work out very well at all.
This is fantasy land here, Craig. That's simply all this is.
I'm going to go outside the box here. I'm going to put Farbs at skip and Mike Farbelow.
Yeah.
I'm going to let him skip.
All right.
I'll probably let Rojeski play second.
All right.
He's been lighting it up on the Summerspiel circuit this year. So, and he's going to either be second or third. Do I have to be on the team?
You can. I think it'd be a natural if picking your own team.
Well, then I'll play. I don't know what position I'm going to play though.
Well, Schuster already played lead in the Olympics one time, so he'd be probably fit in that lead there.
There you go.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I don't know if I want John on the team. maybe.
Tough decisions here. Tough decision, Craig.
Well, all right. We'll just say we'll put John at lead, and then I'll play third for Farbs. And then, I don't know, I'm going to have to think about a 5th player to bring along. We're going to need another skip because I'm sure at some point the four of us are either going to collapse because of sweeping problems or just arguments. We're going to need to get somebody out of that game and put a new player in. But
there you go. Well, that's it. Craig Brown, Jason Smith, certainly from Team Craig Brown, along with Croy Nurnberger and Sean Baton and Quinn Evanson. Guys, good luck. Thanks so much for joining us here on the Extra Extra In podcast. All the best. Cannot wait to see you guys on the ice in Omaha.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks, Price.
Specifically designed by Earl Morris, 3-time Brier competitor, 1998 World Junior coach, and coach of Team Canada, the Stabilizer is the only curling and sliding device of its kind with a patent and an extension option. The sliding pads on the 3 points of contact with the ice help ensure a quiet and smooth delivery directly towards the target. The Stabilizer will help square your shoulders, take pressure off your knee, stabilize your delivery, and improve your game. By keeping the brush hand at a similar height as the delivery hand, the Stabilizer helps keep both shoulders level and square to the line of direction. Whichever model you choose, it will provide a solid sliding platform that stabilizes you, making the delivery easier and more consistent for curlers of all levels. This week, we're giving you a chance to win the FS1 Stabilizer. To enter, go to our website at www.tesn.us/podcast, and use the widget in the upper right-hand corner of the page.
Welcome back into the Extra podcast. Price Atkinson and Joe Calabrese, and man, this is a special treat here, Joe. You don't get to talk to an Olympic gold medalist every single day, but John Morris from Canada, 2010 Olympic gold medalist, winner of the Brier, three-time Brier champion. Just what an honor this is, Joe, to have you, John Morris. Thank you so much for your time here, John. This is a treat for not just Joe and I, but I know all our listeners right now listening in.
Hey guys, well, it's my pleasure. I heard that about your podcast that you guys were launching, and I'm happy to be able to be on it. Thanks for having me.
Wow, this is an honor, and let's go ahead and get going as we just got so much ground to talk about. As I know for you guys there in Canada across the border, like it is down here this year, I mean that season begins ever so early, and you guys really, your season's obviously far underway, but really it's kind of everything is pointing toward those pre-trials there in Summerside coming up November 6th through the 12th, as you got to finish in the top 2 to gain one of those spots in the Olympic trials. Just real quick, how has the season gone for you guys so far, John, as you guys get ready to try and peak at those pre-trials in Summerside?
Well, you guys are right. It seems like every year the curling season's starting earlier and earlier, and this year we were on the ice in August for the first time, and so that's what you got to do to try to stay at the top here, because it's becoming so competitive, not only in Canada but all over the world these days. But so for us this year, we've played in 3 events so far, and we have a new player on our team this year. We brought in a guy from Saskatchewan for our Olympic run. So for the most part, we're trying to develop it and evolve as a team as quickly as we can, so that we can be peaking for those pre-trials in Summerside. So far it's been we've had a good season. We've had 2 great events, one in Edmonton and one in Saskatoon, and saw some really high quality curling from our team. So that's promising, and we're just going to continue to work at it as hard as we can, so that we're feeling 100% going into Summerside.
John, there's a stacked lineup going into that Road to the Roar, which is the Canadian pre-trials. What's, besides all the competitions that you've gone to early in the season here, what has gone into your preparation, knowing for months that you've had this opportunity to represent Canada again, should you qualify through the road and then win the Olympic trials?
Well, you hit the nail on the head there. Like the landscape, the curling landscape in Canada really seems to be changing more so in the last few years than I've ever seen it. When I was playing with Kevin Martin there back in 2010, it seemed like it was us and Glenn Howard for 3 or 4 years going head to head, and then there was a bit of a level maybe below us. But nowadays, you have a different Canadian champion every year. You had Brad Gushu there the one year. You have Kevin Cooley, and now you have Brad Jacobs, and so it's just been it's been changing ever so quickly every season, and even in the field and the pre-trials. You have teams that, just squeaked into the pre-trials, but now all of a sudden they're having really good years this year, and they're playing better than even some of the top 10 teams that are out there. So it's definitely going to be an interesting battle and going into Summerside. I don't think you can count any team out, whether they're ranked number 1 or number 12 going into that event. From what I've seen from all the teams this year so far, it's going to be a crapshoot, and it's going to be something as a fan. It's going to be a heck of an event to watch. So, it's going to take everything we got to get out of that. That's for sure.
And John, obviously the Brier is one of the premier events in the world every single year. But, when you look at the pre-trials compared to the Brier, sometimes you go in talking with the Canadian curlers. I was talking to Warren back in Omaha, and he was telling me about, you can go into the Brier a lot of times and knowing that you have 4 to maybe 8 at max teams that can win it. But the trials is obviously a lot different because you just talked about any one of the 12 teams can come away with a win in the Olympic trials.
Yeah, you know what, guys? Like the depth we have in Canada now, as far as, especially on the men's side, I figure is the most depth we've ever had. I believe. You look at the last trials we had, and it was our team and Jacob's team that snuck out of the pre-trials, and we were the two teams in the final. And so it's just so hard to. There's so little separating each team that's in the top 10 or 15 in Canada now, and it really, I think it's good for the sport. It's really driving a lot of teams to get better and better, and it's great for a spectator because you don't have those blowouts, and just two teams always competing for the title. And in comparison to the Brier, you're exactly right. It's when you're bound by province and territory, there is inevitably teams that don't get to travel as much and would be considered weaker teams that are in the field. But even nowadays, even with your teams like the Northwest Territories and other provinces that historically has been weaker, you see those guys pulling off some upsets, and so there's definitely no free squares on the bingo card at the Brier even anymore, and it just makes, I think, for overall better quality of curling in Canada, and it's nice to be part of that.
Yeah, and obviously I met my friend and our mutual friend, I'm sure, Warren Hansen, there. I should have clarified that there with you, John, as we're talking with John Morris, 2010 Olympic gold medalist, 3-time Brier champion, 11-time Grand Slam winner. Again, you can follow him on Twitter at Johnny Mo Curler. Joe?
Yeah, Johnny, I haven't been on tour for a while. What are you noticing about how the rest of the world is preparing and competing at a world stage? And are you seeing teams from around the world and in the United States making progress in international play?
Well, what I'm seeing this year, I was a little surprised at the World last year. Gushu sort of, steamrolled through that pretty, quite easily, I would say. He had a couple of tougher games against Adine, but even Adine, I felt, at that stage of the season wasn't as strong as he was maybe at the start of the season. But other than that, there wasn't a lot of teams that gave him much trouble, which I was surprised to see because, this year already, these, specifically a few Asian teams have been phenomenal. We've played against a team from China. They have a great coach in Marcel Rock there that's, really brought that program, elevated that program. And we've played against a team from Korea who I'd never played against until this year. And I swear they must have played 97 or 98% against us in Saskatoon there to beat us in the quarters. And, you're seeing some, maybe because it's an Olympic year and, other international countries are just ramping up their training and everything. But, the one thing that those teams I really feel have an advantage of is, one is that they're hiring some good talent to really run their programs. I know that there's some really, really good, smart Canadian coaching staff that is going over there and training those nations, and as a result, they're getting really strong. Also, it's actually good to see. I like seeing curling, doing well internationally. I think, for our sport to grow, we have to see that. And but at the same time, these teams, the one thing that separates them a little bit from us Canadian teams is that it's quite a challenge in Canada to curl full time. Unless you have exceptional sponsorship and you're number one or number two on tour, it's just hard to support a family and make ends meet if you're a curler. That's why most of us have day jobs a lot of the time, and as a result, we just specifically can't put the amount of hours in that these international countries are putting in now, and it's a bit of a catch-22 because I love seeing the international countries doing better on tour, and but at the same time, I hate seeing us lose to other countries because it's historically we've dominated them, and it's sort of painful pill to take sometimes.
Yeah, no doubt about it. As we're talking with John Morris, the 2010 Olympic gold medalist from Canada. And, that was a perfect segue, John. And, wanted to ask you about how important is it in your mind that the United States, specifically succeed in world play, whether it be at Worlds, at the Olympics, to bring about some of those kind of, monetary purses that can help curlers succeed at a professional level on par with some other sports, no matter what it be, whether it be golf, tennis, those kind of sports. How important is it for the United States to see success on the world level?
Well, you know what? Just like any other sport that we've seen, whether it be golf or hockey or, it's vital that the U.S. is a major is a major force in that sport, and if the U.S. does well at curling, whether it's at the Olympics, specifically at the Olympics, and also at World Championships, it really helps put curling on the map, and that's what we all want to see. And I know those a lot of the U.S. curling teams personally, and there's a lot of great guys in the program. And as much as I still want to kick their butt every time I'm playing them, when I'm not at the Worlds and I'm watching them play at the Worlds, I'm cheering hard for them to do well, because I want to see curling on NBC in the States. I want to see it grow, because I know how, it's funny because when I talk to Americans, and I've gone down there and done the odd clinic and supported the game down there in the past, and it's amazing to hear it, to hear them say, I've never seen this sport before, and then I saw it at the Olympics, and I went to try it out, and man, is it ever a great time. And not only is it really social, but it's such a great sport. So I think it's just the exposure we really got to work on with the U.S. and we need those U.S. teams to really do well at the Olympics to help bring that exposure to the country.
John, let's pivot to some of those U.S. teams who are in our own Olympic trials here. And so we've got Craig Brown, Heath McCormick, Brady Clark, John Schuster, and Todd Burr. I was wondering if you maybe had any insights on any of these teams. If you played any of them in the last couple seasons, what do you think about these teams going into the trials?
Well, I find with those teams there, I guess your most consistent team would be Schuster. He's, every year he's in the mix, and is right up there with some of the best teams in the world. And with those other teams, I've played them in the past, and it seems like they can all be, one day they can be really good and almost beat anyone, and then other days seem to struggle, considerably. So I think the consistency, might not quite be there with those teams. But I know I've played them all. Like Brady Clark, had some good battles with him along over the years. Same with Craig Brown and Heath McCormick, and so there's some good talent on those teams, and I guess it's just a matter of consistency. And I have to say, I don't know if we were going to talk about the process in the U.S., like the trials process, and I have to say it is a little bit. It's tough to see, we have beers with these American teams a lot on tour, just while we're waiting for the event to start, or after like the event's over, while we're watching some football or something, and I have to say I feel for them a bit, because I feel the process in the U.S. is a little bit challenging as far as the trials process is concerned, and it seems like there's some picking and choosing going on, and I know as an athlete that would be frustrating for myself, and I think that I would love to see in the future the program get a little bit stronger and also have more of a system that's a bit more commonplace that would might allow teams to thrive a little bit more, and without going into specifics, it's just I know it's been a challenge with that system, and I can say this because I'm Canadian, and we're lucky to have some great a great system in Czech here to produce some great teams for our country, and I'd like nothing more than to see a bit more of a better system in place in the U.S. and to see some great teams come out of there and develop there, because I'm cheering hard for my American neighbors, and it'd be nice to see that happen. So.
Yes, we're talking with John Morris. Again, you can follow him on Twitter at Johnny Mo Curler, author of Fit to Curl. Curls out of Calgary, 11-time Grand Slam champion, 2010 Olympic gold medalist. I know he's going for another one of those gold medals. But, John, I'm curious. You mentioned the U.S. process here, and obviously it's been a hot topic, certainly on the men's side. And, picking and choosing, as you mentioned, do you think it's something really that is it process, or do you think this is simply something that we could solve in America where we just continue to develop the benches and the depth of the elite curlers here in the U.S., like across the border, like you guys have in Canada?
Well, I think there's a couple things in place that might need to be rectified. One of them, I would get one or two people involved that have a really good and sort of a championship pedigree. Nothing against anyone that's in there right now, because I know there's some really great, good people that are involved. But I think you need to bring someone, like, for example, in our national team coach is Rick Lang. Mm-hmm. Rick Lang was I think he's either a 2 or 3-time world champion, and he just really gets it. He's we worked with him when I was with Pat Simmons' team there when we were Team Canada, and he is. He really gets it, and he really adds a lot to the program, for us. And I think that adding someone with a pedigree like that to the mix would be very helpful, especially in the decision-making process, because I think that, that hasn't been the case in the past. And I also think that developing our young curlers, right now you see like Nina Ross and Jamie Sinclair, and the Dropkins and some of the younger curlers on the men's side. I think that you need to have a really good program in place that that really takes into account proper training, proper nutrition, proper preparation, mechanics. And I don't know exactly what they're doing in the States right now, but I know a lot of it's very technical based, and there's some video based and some stats based. And I think that that's a little bit off course with what should be emphasized. And I think that if there's some changes made that way, you produce and develop the curlers, your young curlers, and really get to see their potential, and then you add a couple guys in the mix that have a really good championship pedigree that can run this program and really bring it to a new level, and so that's where without knowing too much about exactly what's going on in the U.S. That's from an outsider's perspective. That's sort of what I see and what I hear on tour.
So let's change gears once again, John. We're going to switch gears now to the World Championships. They're in Las Vegas this year. You played in the Continental Cup in Vegas in 2016. Outside Canada, is there a better destination for Worlds?
I'll tell you what, I've had probably that was one of the most fun events I've ever had in my life in Vegas. It was so cool to see, fans from all over the world come into Vegas just to enjoy that atmosphere. And it was, the only thing that's tough is as a competitor, as an athlete, is trying to stay focused on the curling while you're there is a challenge. So, but I'll tell you what, I'll never forget when we won that Continental Cup on the last shot there a few years ago, and I remember Matty Hamilton and I we brought that cup with us, I think till the wee hours of the morning, and there was about a couple hundred fans with us, and we were all enjoying a couple of celebratory drinks out of that cup, and it was just a really cool event because that doesn't happen very often. So I'm really happy. I'm really glad that Vegas has got into the curling mix. I think it's outstanding. The city, with that history and that much excitement, has taken curling under their wing, and hopefully, will be a good factor as to helping the sport of curling grow in the U.S. So I'm excited. I love seeing an event there in Vegas, and we'd like nothing more than to be there.
John, I can't think of a better way to draw Matt Hamilton out. A championship win, a championship trophy, a crowd around him, and everybody going nuts in Vegas. I can't think of anything more Matt Hamilton than that, John Morris.
Yeah, that's where we I don't know if he was called the Muzzinator before that, but he was he sure was our best one of our best teammates and cheerleaders, and he brought a smile to my face every time I saw him. So we're good friends now. I actually took him hunting up here in Canada last year during one of the slams, and we both love to cook, and so he's one of my better friends in the U.S. That's for sure.
Yeah, Matt Hamilton, he's a great guy for sure. As we're continuing with John Morris, starting to wrap up here. Again, follow John Morris on Twitter at Johnny Mo Curler, 2010 Olympic gold medalist, author of Fit to Curl, curls out of Calgary. Again, he and Dean Gimmel authored that book, really just diving into the fitness of what it takes to be in a curler at the elite level now. But, something I'm curious about before we get out of here, John, and I know Joe's got one more for you. You were one of the great lineup switch moves of all time in 2015. And Pat Simmons recently described the idea for you and Pat to switch positions, en route to the Brier title as your idea. But those type of lineup changes aren't taken lightly, certainly not here in the U.S. What made it a good idea at that time, and what are the right conditions for a team to make a change like that as you were the skip and move from throwing the last rocks to throwing third, and Pat is the vice skip to throwing last?
Well, you know what? That move there at that Brier. Like, sometimes you're in a situation, I've seen it more so than been in it. I've seen it with other teams more so, but where things just aren't working. Like a perfect example is a guy like Reed Carruthers. He played second for a few years for Jeff Stout, and they had one great year together, but
yeah.
I don't think he was thriving in his role as a second. And now you see him skipping, and he's outstanding as a skip, and same thing with Pat. He had some good years with Cooey, but I think that I'd played against him when he was a skip in Saskatchewan, and he didn't have the strongest lineup in front of him, and he would win games on his own. And we were in a situation where we were 2-3. I found that we just didn't have the right pieces in place that we're gonna win us a championship. And I felt that, if we continue on the course we're going, we'll end up 500, maybe right around 500, miss the playoffs, and then our team would have just sailed into the sunset, because I know two of the guys were planning on retiring. And so it was an instinct decision that, I think if you have, one of the great things about that team is, we had four guys that we just wanted to win, and we didn't care what position we're in, or, we'd been on tour long, we'd played long enough that it didn't matter who got credit or any of that, stuff. It was just a matter of what do we got to do to win, because we're sick of not winning here. So, I remember calling that meeting that night, and the guys were pretty surprised that I brought up what I felt were the reasons why we should make this change, and it would, if worst case scenario we fall flat on our face, and but I was willing to take that chance, and we were willing to take that chance, and after that switch was made, I'd never seen Pat Simmons play so well in my life. He was, it was just, I was just a spectator during some games, because I felt like I was playing average. I was playing 85% maybe, and Pat was just, especially in that final, he was a man on a mission, and it was just one of the coolest things to be part of, and one of the proudest moments I've had in my curling career.
It's quite the lineup switch, John. I'm going to give you one last switch up, and before you go, your family invented the stabilizer, which I think may be the most influential piece of curling equipment in the United States. Almost everybody at our club in Rochester initially learns to play with a stabilizer. I like to know what it's like to know that you're part of a product that makes the game so much more accessible to people around the world.
Well, it's funny. I remember when I was a kid and my dad was making, developing and inventing this thing. We would be in the unfinished part of our basement, and he had a bunch of these models lined up that he was trying. And at the time in his career, he was sort of, near the twilight of his competitive days, and he was frustrated in his game, so he was trying to find a way that could, not get him better. And so he was. I still remember all the prototypes in the basement, and then when he invented this and started off up at the Ottawa Curling Club, then it seemed to gain quite a bit of popularity, and the science behind it is quite rational. It just squares your shoulders up, and it's just really cool to see that it's caught on internationally. And I know that at the National Training Center in Calgary here, where all the top curlers in Alberta train, we have, there's stabilizers behind every seat, and it's just really cool to see that. And I know that it doesn't matter if you're a beginner and you're just getting into this for the first time. It makes your initial delivery a lot easier. Or else, you look at players like David Nedoin and Colleen Jones, and a guy like Reed Carruthers now who uses a stabilizer type of product, and so it helps at any level. And it's just cool that my dad had the foresight and the dedication to come up with a product like that, and it's just great that it's still staying in the family here. My sister now owns and runs the company, and she's a massive curling supporter, and it's good to see it stay in the family.
Well, John, this has just been absolutely fantastic. Just a very special conversation. Before we let you go, I just let our listeners know what do you have coming up? What is next for Team Morris? As obviously you guys get ready for the pre-trials in Summerside. What do you guys have between now and then to get ready for those all important trials coming up November the 6th through the 12th?
Well, we actually only have one more event. We got the Grand Slam in Lloydminster coming up next weekend.
Yep.
And then, so that's a real big event for us.
Oh, yeah.
It's right in the heart of curling country in Canada here, so there'll be a lot of fans. And then, but we also have a big training camp. We're going to get together, 3 or 4 days before those pre-trials and put in a real good camp here at the Glencoe here in Calgary. And there's not a doubt in my mind we're going to be chomping at the bit and 100% ready for those pre-trials in Summerside. So I can't wait to get at her.
Well, that's awesome. As you mentioned earlier, you guys pull for, the Team USA down here. I think I can safely say for Joe and myself, and I know a lot of our listeners, maybe all of our listeners, that might be a little bit dangerous. But, John, I know when the U.S. isn't in it, our hearts are with our Canadian friends there across the border. You guys just obviously the bar setters when it comes to world-class curling around the globe. This has just been fantastic, John Morris. Thank you so much for a few minutes of your time tonight. It's been awesome.
My pleasure, guys. It's been a treat chatting with you guys tonight, and thanks very much for helping the game of curling grow.
Well, all the best, John. Can't wait to
do this. Thanks a lot, John.
Can't wait to do it again soon. All right, when we come back, Joe Calabrese and I, we're going to wrap this thing up here on the Extra Extra In podcast with the 12th In Sports Network, powered by Isagenix.
Whenever you travel for bonspiels, business, or other travel, please remember to go to TESN.US and click on the Expedia banner. When you book your travel through the banner on TESN.US, a small portion of that booking goes to TESN affiliates. If you like TESN, please remember to support our affiliates by clicking on the Expedia banner when you travel. Thanks for supporting our affiliates.
All right, Joe, let's put the finishing touches here on Episode 7 of the Extra Extra In podcast with the 12th In Sports Network, powered by Isagenix. Joe, I'm not sure, we've had a bigger show, but each week we get bigger and we get better right here on the Extra Extra In.
Yeah, you like your Olympic gold medalist, do you, Price?
I do. I got to tell you, between you and me and between our listeners here, it's not every day that you get to talk to a 3-time Super Bowl champion, and then at the same time, a few hours later, you talk to Olympic gold medalist. So I'm just going to say, talking to a 3-time Super Bowl champ and then Olympic gold medalist, I've had a pretty good day, Joe.
Yeah, it's not a bad life there, Price.
as you want to give me a hard time. But, really great stuff here. Again, you can listen to the Extra Extra In podcast every single week just simply by going to iTunes, by going to the Apple Podcast app on your smartphone. You got a smartphone? Everybody does. Just go to the Apple Podcast app, go to the search menu, and search the Extra Extra In. You cannot miss us. It's that easy. Hit subscribe, and while you're there, give us a rating, write a review. It only takes 30 to 60 seconds. The more people that like, rate, review, and share, the quicker and easier it is for curling fans around the country and abroad to find out what we do here on the Extra Extra In podcast as we are barreling toward the 2018 Winter Olympics, Joe, and we've got the Olympic trials coming up just in a couple weeks at Baxter Arena in Omaha.
Yeah, you know what, Price? If you got your U.S. curling news mailed to you this week, you may have noticed a little blurb about the TESN partnering with NBCSN and bringing those Olympic trials to you. we've alluded to it a little bit here on the podcast, but I can officially say now we're going to be there, and we're going to be webcasting those round robin draws for NBCSN. So we're pretty excited about that. It's just one more thing that we have been able to say that we're able to bring to the U.S. curling public, and we're really excited about it.
Yeah, we absolutely are, and it's going to be a great week in Omaha as we'll bring you the sights, sounds, behind the scenes, social media, all kinds of great stuff. And not to be outdone, we will give you a live special, the Extra Extra In podcast from Omaha, Joe, as we will record one. Maybe we might even do two. We'll see what kind of shenanigans we can get into. I just have a feeling we're going to have a lot of fun special guests, a lot of special 12th End Sports Network, 5th End breaks we're going to have with interviews. It just should be a fun week. There's all kinds of stuff we're going to bring you right there from Omaha. I cannot wait.
Yeah, it's going to be the highlight of our curling year, that's for sure. Real excited about it. Can't wait to do it. But before we go, Price, we got to talk quickly about the Rochester Curling the Gathering Spiel. That's April 13th to 15th, and it's a fundraising bonspiel to benefit the Urban League of Rochester. And if you want some more information about that, you're going to go to www.rochestercurling.org. It's called Curling the Gathering. It's a spiel like no other, where you get to bid on power-ups that you can use to either enhance your own chances of winning or hinder your opponents. Price, wouldn't it be great if you had an extra hammer? And it's something you could bid on in our spiel. So, it's one of those types of things that you can bid on all these different power-ups and give yourself a better chance of winning. It all goes to a good cause at the Urban League of Rochester.
That it absolutely does, and especially as you just mentioned, we will not mention NFL football here as we close up shop. My team are big fat losers to the Philadelphia Eagles, while your team goes unscathed as you had the week off. But we
didn't lose this week, Bryce. We had a good week.
Yeah, no doubt about it. As the Carolina Panthers, they actually took the gas pipe to the Philadelphia Eagles. Absolute gas piped at 28-23 last Thursday. It feels like an eternity, but you know what? That's why you play them, and I have a feeling the Panthers will come back strong this week, Joe.
Yeah, we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers here at home for the Buffalo Bills coming up this weekend, and I'm looking for us to get back into the win column. I'm hearing Jameis Winston didn't practice today, so who knows who it could be. Ryan Fitzpatrick, quarterback in those Buccaneers, and I know from Bills history, at the type of quarterback play of Ryan Fitzpatrick. I'm feeling pretty confident.
Well, since you have front row seats as a Bills season ticket holder, I've got something special for you. I think I'm going to be able to hook my man up, TJ Reeves, the sideline reporter for the Tampa Bay Bucks. I'm going to have him make sure he makes a beeline to your seat on Sunday, please. Because a good friend of mine who voiced the intro to this show, TJ Reeves, is the Tampa Bay Bucks sideline reporter, the voice of our intro here on the Extra Extra In podcast. He is going to come see you. I'm going to go ahead and make you that promise, Joe.
That's great. I'm right on the visitor sideline of the end zone, so it should be no problem to find me.
All right. Well, I'm going to have that taken care of. We have you taken care of here on the Extra Extra In podcast all season long. We got a whole lot coming to you after the Olympic trials, but we'll get to that much later. But as we get ready for the upcoming Olympic trials at Baxter Arena in Omaha, November the 11th through the 18th, let's go ahead and get out of here. For Price Atkinson, Joe Calabrese on the Extra Extra podcast with the 12th End Sports Network powered by Isogenics. We'll see you again next week.
Thanks for being with us on this edition of the Extra Extra In podcast with Price Atkinson. Follow Price and the 12th End Sports Network crew on Twitter and Facebook to stay up on our weekly contests, giveaways, and guests for upcoming episodes of the Extra Extra In podcast, powered by Isogenics.